This right here is 2,000 big ones. And it's about the amount of money you would save buying the Polygon Siskiu T9 as opposed to many other comparable bikes like the Specialized Stump Jumper Comp. Last week we made a video comparing these two bikes, and while the Specialized had some noticeable performance benefits, specifically due to the weight savings from its carbon frame, the T9's superior suspension and drivetrain blew its more expensive rival out of the water. So just imagine how much more potential we could pack into the T9 if we invest those $2,000 worth of savings into some upgrades. Well, actually, you don't need to imagine it because that's what we're doing in this video. We've chosen 7 upgrades that we believe will elevate the performance of this bike even further. So without further ado, let's jump straight into things with upgrade number 1, pedals. The first 3 upgrades we're going to make to the T9 cover the bike's contact points, or in other words, the places where you as a rider make contact with the bike. And that's the saddle, grips, and of course, your pedals. Contact points are highly specific, and one rider's preferences for pedals or grips might feel totally awful to another rider. I personally prefer the added grip from an alloy pedal as opposed to a composite pedal, and saving so much money on a complete bike allows for the luxury to splurge a little here and there. Next up, we gotta give the booty a little love, and for that, I've chosen the Tidal MS1 saddle. The saddle shape fits my sit bones nicely, and the cutout in the rear allows for a bit more clearance when bottoming out the suspension. This is especially important for me, seeing as I ride a size small frame. Our last contact point to cover are grips. These grips feature several different textures throughout the grip, making them soft where you need them to be, but also plenty of surface area to keep you locked on when your grip strength starts to fail. Not only that, but they match the T9 perfectly. And who doesn't like a nice color-coordinated bike? Upgrade number 4 isn't necessarily a contact point, but it can still make a huge difference to how that bike feels underneath you. And that is the handlebars. For some riders, the stock bar setup works great, but others may prefer something with more or less rise, back sweep, or up sweep. I've once again chosen to spoil myself a bit here and got myself a set of Tidal Form carbon bars. Carbon bars usually list for well over $200, but as I'm sure you all know by now, we at BikesOnline always have killer deals with our 5% price beat guarantee. So I was able to save some cash in this department. In addition to preferring their fit, I've also chosen the Form bars for their compliance. Or in other words, the way they absorb vibrations and even bigger impacts coming from the trail. This helps significantly reduce fatigue and lets you have more fun for longer. Now, of course, I could have just mounted the new handlebars to the stem that comes stock on the T9, but I'm a little too vain for that. Plus, it's not every day your boss tells you you've got $2,000 to blow through. And to be honest, the biggest reason here was to match the bike's new color scheme, which if you haven't noticed by now, looks a lot like the Fox Factory Kashima coating. I've dreamed of owning a bike adorned with Fox's golden stanchion since literally the first time I ever stepped foot in a bike shop, and that's not an exaggeration. So I knew this was the perfect opportunity to make it happen. Now, all of my excitement aside, there's a few things that I should note here. The T9 already comes with Fox Performance Elite suspension, and if you watch the T9 versus Stump Jumper comparison video, you know I've raved about it. That Performance Elite fork actually has the exact same internals and adjustability as the factory level one. The only difference being the Kashima coating, which Fox says helps reduce friction and makes for smoother, more sensitive suspension. So did the T9 really need this upgrade? Arguably not, but that's not the only reason that I made the switch. Reason number 2 is that I love riding my size small 27.5-inch Siskiu bikes with a 29-inch wheel, or in other words, the mullet setup. I've done several wheel size comparison videos in the past, which I'll link in the description, but my takeaway from all of these was that for me, the mullet has a perfect mix of agility and playfulness with speed and sure-footedness on gnarlier terrain. And lastly, the third and final reason that I finally felt that I could make my Kashima dreams come true was that thanks to BikesOnline, I could finally afford it. BikesOnline is always offering some exceptional deals on various bikes and components, so be sure to subscribe to our email for the latest deals. So with that, we've made it to our 7th and final upgrade, which I've got to say at this point is probably the most significant one we've made so far. And that is a set of SpokeX SX30 wheels. And while upgrading to faster and stronger wheels isn't cheap, it's definitely one of the biggest investments and best investments you can make when upgrading your bike. Wheels are what's called rolling weight, and due to some physics that really are way over my head, rotating objects exert more weight than ones that are still. Where you'll really notice this is on the climbs, as you'll have to put in much less effort to get your wheels moving and up the trail. Another huge perk of the SpokeX wheel set that I purchased is that it comes with a lifetime warranty, which there's really no better peace of mind than that. Now, all you mathematicians out there may have noticed that at this point, even with adding all of these amazing upgrades, we still haven't reached that $2,000 cap yet. And you know what that means? It's time to plan our next riding adventure. Being a direct-to-consumer brand, we're able to get you the best prices, which are truly hard to believe sometimes. Combine that with the upgrades we just made, and I genuinely believe this bike could hold its own with bikes costing twice as much. So if you have any other questions about the T9 or any of the upgrades that we've gone ahead and made, please drop me a comment below and I'll make sure to get you an answer to those questions. While you're down there, like and subscribe to BikesOnline channel where I'll be hanging out. And after you've done that, get out there, get on your bike, and get ripping.